Mike Harper, senior technician, that's my title, I guess. Do a little bit of everything. 25 years with Computrols, 4 kids. My daughter Catherine's 21, son Jack is 19. I have 11-year-old twins, Emma and Chase, so big family. When I'm not working, I do a little bit of fishing every now and then, a little bit of water skiing. That's an interesting story. Going way back to 1990, I was at Delgado for electrical engineering technology. And I was dating this girl who was working temporary at Computrols as a secretary. And she got me an interview. And I started with Computrols. I knew nothing about Computrols. I knew nothing about building automation. I had no idea there were these big water chillers inside buildings. I knew absolutely nothing, completely green. And I started with Computrols, calibrating these old Honeywell temperature sensors. So that's kind of where I started. And my first day on the job, I shut all the lights and air conditioning off on the 20th floor of Pan Am because I shorted out the temp sensor. So that was an auspicious start. My advice would be, if you want to learn it, learn it from the ground up. Don't be too quick to say, I don't want to do this part, Everything I know about building automation, I've learned working at Computrols. Like I said, when I started, I knew absolutely nothing. Didn't know what a chiller was, had no idea how any of this stuff worked. Career highlights. There's been so many, just a lot of good times with, working with Kevin and Roy and Mike. They've always had the attitude of work hard, play hard. Roy takes that to the nth degree. Try to realize we got to sleep a little bit in there sometime too. So, but we've always had, I do remember some of the times Mike Dowling and I doing 1221 Brickell. We had 3 systems we were interfacing to and tying it all together. So we spent quite a bit of time out in Miami for about a 3-week period, 3-4 weeks straight. So it was quite memorable, big project. But yeah, it's just a lot of good times, a lot of hard work, a lot of hard partying after. Computrols is a completely different company than when I started. When I started, we were strictly maintaining other people's systems. Honeywell and Johnson had the whole Honeywell Delta 1000 system that you load with a tape recorder. So a reboot of the system, it was a mainframe with cards in it. So to reboot it, you had about a 45-minute cassette tape you had to load in for the OS and about another 30-minute cassette tape you had to load in for the database. And at any point, if that had an error, you had to start over. So that's the equivalent of rebooting your computer today, which takes, 2 minutes. So whenever we would have a problem with those Delta 1000s, which we had about 3 or 4 of them in the city, maybe 5 of them at that time. You get a call out, I would pack a lunch because you were going to be there for at least 2 hours. If you had problems, you could be there for 8 hours trying to get that thing going again. So that was a big deal. And I do remember when I first started, Mike Dowling had started a few months before me. So when I first started, the first rev of DOS CBAS had come out. He was talking to 3 Johnson FPU field panel units. He was getting temperature back, and he had start-stop. I don't think he even had schedules on it yet. But it was the first DOS rev of CBAS. Hadn't been installed anywhere, so I was like, he'd just gotten something going. So I got to see CBAS come up from the ground up. And then, of course, making our own products and moving forward. So completely different ball game now. I was working on the audio cabinet at Pan Am, and Roy always had I guess the theory of training is, I'm going to let you work on this for a few hours before I help you, see what you can do. Kind of like, sink or swim. So this audio cabinet, it was very difficult to work on. Wire wrap, terminal boards in the back, and all this wire wrap. It's like, each one was kind of like its own custom deal. So it was a schematic. You had to put an oscilloscope on it to calibrate the frequencies for the supervisory and what have you. And it really was like, getting this thing balanced to work was very difficult. Even if it was broken, then if I was wrong with it, then balance it. And so it was my first time fooling with it, and I'm working on it, and I'm going through the manual. And it was Friday afternoon again, and Roy goes, "We're going to the bar next door," what's the hotel next door anyway, the bar next door. And he goes, "If you need us, come get us." And I'm like, okay. So I'm working on it, and they finally come out of this. Was about 6 p.m. And they finally come out of the bar at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still working on it. And Roy's like, "Why didn't you come get us?" And I'm like, "I got this. I figured it out. I don't want your help." And from then on, I was the audio cabinet expert because I knew that thing inside and out. Because I spent 8 hours, figuring it out and fixing it and making it work. But that was just kind of that's the way you learn things. It's the best way to learn it is trial by fire. I think I'm technically a Computrols lifer at this point. I don't know if I consider it a life sentence. It could do a lot worse. Computrols has its pros and cons. It's a pretty easygoing company to work for. We've jokingly called it a company of misfits. It's a lot of eclectic personalities, different kind of people, but that comes with, I guess, with the type of work we do. But I don't know if I'd call it a life sentence. I just got back into barefoot waterskiing back at the age of 50. Probably not a good idea. A little rough. Still like riding a bike, except more painful.
So what got you started in barefoot waterskiing? That's an interesting. What is that?
I started when my brother got his first boat in 1982. I was, I guess I was 14 years old. And we started slalom skiing, and then we got the bright idea to start barefooting by kicking off a ski at 40 miles an hour. Which is like, getting in a car accident. So we started doing it then, and I skied pretty regular till I was in my 20s, and then started dating and, married and kids and stopped water skiing. And my brother passed away a few years ago, and he was a big barefoot water skier, and his friends who he skied with contacted me on Facebook and convinced me to come out and go back skiing with them. And after laying off for 25 years, I jumped out there and skied like, I hadn't missed a beat. And it's easy as long as you don't fall. When you fall, you don't recover quite as quick in your 50s as you did when you were in your 20s.